friends, my name is Jake. This is Bandit, my lovely dog. You're an awesome dog, aren't you? Yeah, you're a pretty good dog. Today we're looking at a knife that I unboxed almost 3 weeks ago, 20 days ago or so. It's this little guy from Sanrenmu. Sanrenmu Knives has a load of knives, and this is from their smallest series, although it's a little bit big for their smallest series, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. It's a little slip joint knife that you can get with micarta, nice green micarta, or two different colors of G10. We'll get into that a little bit later. It's under $20 US, and if you like slip joint knives or you like keychain knives, like little things that you can easily carry on a keychain, you might want to watch this. Stick around. We're going to go into all the details. I'm going to do something that I don't usually do on this channel. I'm going to talk about the con about this knife first, because if it's a big deal to you, then you don't want this knife. And there's basically one con on this knife. And at first I thought it was kind of cool. You know, we've got a 4mm hex drive in there, but that hole and its placement and everything, it's just not good for a keychain. You see, here's my keychain. I got my vehicle and stuff on here. I carry a knife. I tend to carry them with these little hooks. I got two things on this hook. So I can take this off. I got, you know, a little screwdriver bit, and I can take the knife off the hook and use the knife however I want. The thing is, I like to have like a 1/2 inch, 15mm or smaller. Well, it's more like 13mm or whatever, or smaller ring to go on my keychain so that I can just, hook it on there wherever I want to. And, it's just fine that way, and it's great to carry it. I keep a flashlight. I've got my drivers for my knives to adjust my knives and stuff. And it's just a little hook, and I like carrying my stuff that way. But this thing, it's in part how thick it is this way, and it's in part how far it is from the edge of the hole to, the edge. These rings, you've got to flex them and flex them to get them out. And I see this one even, maybe you can see it right there. See, it's no longer holding tight like it should. If they start coming apart like this on you, then, it's not good. Also, I've marred up my micarta here a little bit, because even this bigger ring, this is what, 3/4, almost an inch. It's not quite an inch, it's almost an inch. And it's weakened the ring too much, but I can get it back off now because I want to get it off. And, it's just not a nice tight ring anymore. I've tried a couple of them. I tried a smaller ring, and I just had to destroy it to get it back off. It was already super spaced apart when I had it on. Like there was a big, space on this one. So this is, a smaller one. This one I tried as well, and yep, again, it's bent permanently out. That's no good. I did find one light ring. Now this is a thin wire, and this one I got to get on there and stay on there, and I'll put it back on there, when I'm done probably. I'll probably be keeping this knife. We'll see. I even thought of using a little carabiner or something like this Next Torch one, but it doesn't fit on there to have, it close back up. And so I've got a number of other small carabiner type clips that would be okay on a keychain, but no, you got to get a pretty big one because of that space. It's a combination between this thickness and that. It's just not good. Like on this G10 one, this is a Tucson knife, G10 on the outside. I could, just take off the G10 there so that all I would have is the metal, the back spring with the hole through it. And I could probably put an even smaller ring on that if I wanted to, and I wouldn't have to spread it out as far to get it on. And it's close to the edge, and it works really well. But this one, even if I cut away, a spot on the micarta somewhere to get a ring on, you still have the screw here. the 4mm hex head screw. And that's not going in any further than it is now. That's just the way it is. So you can't really modify it. So if that's a big deal to you, I might try this big one. One other thing I should say though, with a ring like this on there, it gives you a little bit more to hold on to when you're holding it, because then you've got the ring in there and it stays on there secure and it gives you more grip. So there are advantages to having a bigger ring as well, but if you just don't like that, then this might not be the knife for you. Now, how can you get this? 3 ways. I'll show you some of the pictures that I took off from online. We've got a titanium black coating on this one and green micarta and sort of gold hardware. You can get it with yellow G10 and sort of a gold, in quotes, color titanium coating on it. Or if you like a satin finish, the only option is with a black G10. Those are the 3 colorways. What do we have? We've got a 12C27 stainless steel blade, which is a decent budget stainless steel, low budget stainless steel. We've got, it says that right there, 12C27. Model number right here, 325S. This one's the MG, the micarta green. And on this side, we've got the Sanrenmu Chinese logo on there. We've got a hollow grind blade. We've got a nail nick. What am I going to point with? Let's point with this. We've got a nail nick right there. Not on the other side. I think it would have been nice if they would have put it on both sides, because not everybody is right-handed. Some people are left-handed, and I can still do it, but it's a little bit harder to grab. It's a slip joint knife. It's 100% ambidextrous in every way except for that nail nick. And I think it would have been nice if that nail nick would have been put on both sides. That only applies to 10% of us, but there you go. We've got what I call a K-tip blade. For a while now, people have been calling those kinds of things reverse tanto, but I just don't like that terminology because it doesn't make any sense to me. This edge never gets sharpened. There's just the regular one edge. It's a clip point. The most accurate, simple terminology is it's a type of clip point blade, not a reverse tanto. And I like to call them K-tips because there's a number of Japanese knives that their names start with a K that have this kind of clip point like that. So there's that. That's about it. We got a slip joint, half stop or 3/4 stop, whatever you want to call it, 2/3 stop. And we've got a little stop pin in there. You can see that silvery point right there by my finger. That goes and touches right there in this little sharpener's choil. So you can slam that shut all you want and the edge is not going to be at risk at all. So that's a really good thing. We've got a fairly thin edge, although it's thinner here than it is at the tip. So it's comparatively stronger tip than the rest of the edge. But it's totally adequate for the kinds of tasks that you might want a keychain knife or a tiny little, pocket dropper knife to have. I'll take it apart later on, but let's go over all the measurements first. The weight of this thing, 22 grams, just over 3/4 of an ounce, 0.78 ounces. Sharpness from the factory, 170 best, which is quite good. That's roughly average from the knives that I review. A tiny bit worse than average, but just the tiniest bit. The cutting edge length, so from that nail to over here, it's the same nail, isn't it? That length, the cutting edge, 37.8 millimeters, 1.49 inches, so 1.5 inches of cutting edge. The blade length, so the tip to the closest spot on the micarta here, 42.1 millimeters, 1.66 inches. The thickness of the blade stock, and I measured, of course, where it's flat back here close to the pivot, 2.11 millimeters, 83 thousandths of an inch thick, so a little bit under 1/10 of an inch, not bad. Blade depth this way, it's biggest right here at the heel of the cutting edge, 12.3 millimeters, 0.484 of an inch. The thickness behind the grind, well, it's thinnest here, and it's thickest there. It goes from about 0.3 millimeters, which is 12 thousandths of an inch, to 0.44 millimeters, which is 17 thousandths of an inch. So an average of 0.36 millimeters and 14.5 thousandths of an inch, or that's what it is right near the middle. Not bad, not bad at all. The grind angles from sharpening. This side's done at about 15.4 degrees. It starts here at 15.3, ends at 15.5. So very little change, 0.2 degrees of change along the length. This side's got an average of 19.6 degrees. Starts at 18.4 here, goes to 20.8 there. 2.4 degrees of change over that 1.5 inches. Yeah, that's pretty par for the course. When I go to sharpen this knife, a little knife like this, I would probably sharpen it between 15 and 17 degrees per side. So, you know, just so you don't do any heavy duty cutting with a little knife like this. And if you do, well, you're going to be there for a little while anyways. So I like to have a really fine edge on these things. The length of the handle, so let's close this guy up that way. 63.5 millimeters, 2.5 inches on the nose. The grip area, it's about the same, about 6 centimeters, about 2.5 inches. Where do you measure when it's rounded like that, right? And the thickness of the handle scales, not on the hardware. The hardware is actually a little bit less than on the micarta. 7.95 millimeters, which is 0.313 of an inch. And the handle depth this way, that is widest at 15.9 millimeters, 0.626 of an inch. And when the knife is closed, how much space does that occupy at the widest point? 18.5 millimeters, 0.728. And the total length, it's just a hair over 105 millimeters, about 4.13 inches total. So yeah, I can get a 3-finger grip on this little knife. And with the key ring, you can get a fairly good grip. The micarta has a great texture on it, so I really like that for a little knife, for how grippy it is. Nice little knife. Nice tip for doing tip work, which often happens on these tiny keychain knives, that you're using the tip to do something delicate, you know, a little bit of scraping or something. But it's got a long enough edge at 1.5 inches that it can do an awful lot of things. A lot of people balk at tiny knives, but they don't realize most people, when they use a knife, they use the 2 inches from the tip back, or they use the 2 inches from the heel up, which means a 2-inch knife can do almost everything. Not quite, of course. There's a lot of things. If you made a list, you could make a lot of things. But if you made a list, the list of things you can do with a knife that's 1.5 inches or 2 inches is way more than you'd imagine. Or than most people would imagine. It's a good knife size. And you got something like this along, even in Canada, not a big deal. Like, I could even take a domestic flight in Canada with this knife on my person. Okay, there's the screw. Took it out with a T6 driver. Focus up here. Focus up here. Come on, focus. There you go. T6 driver. That screw came out. This is a 4 millimeter hex key, and it wasn't quite that loose. I started loosening it and realized I need to press play on that. Very fine threads on there, very fine threads indeed. Let's see, this micarta comes off very easily. So there's that. And then we got pins here. Oh, I think those might be peened. Those might be peened. This is a D-shaped screw here. So let's pull the other side out. It only goes one way, right there. And then we can take this off. Now, I don't know if I want to take this all the way apart if it's riveted, because then I won't be able to get it back together. So there you go. Yeah, that's going to be harder to get together again than I thought it would be. There are phosphor bronze washers in there that I can see. You can see that one right there. Hopefully I can get a good close-up picture of that. And I've got all the tension off of that, so I'm going to have to... Oh, there you go. Okay, there you go. Tiny little phosphor bronze washers. And the knife. And there's grease on there. I'm going to clean this all up and put it back together again after I've taken some pictures. Well, that was a mistake. Here's my mess. I've got the tough part back together again. I'd taken it all the way apart because I wanted to show you everything. Oh, by the way, there's a serial number in there these are not peened. They just come right loose, especially the stop pin. So I'm putting it back together again. I got the blade back on. Hopefully it's not going to come loose again. And of course you want to do that. You want to cover your blade with a lot of protection to get it back in place. I'm just trying to get the stop pin in there. I was trying to use my fat fingers and I wasn't having luck. Oh, there we go. So, oh, stay. Please stay. A whole lot longer. Put that washer on there. Yeah, that was tough. Sometimes I use a vise to hold the spring in place. And then you got to push that spring, the back of that spring, up and get the blade on at the same time. This pin here, I had it just part way up, about halfway up, so that I could align everything properly and then push up the pin all the way through when I had the blade and the back spring, everything all lined up together. And of course that stop pin fell out again. So now it's time for me to put a little bit of lube in there. So I'll do that before it's too late. And then I got to put that stop pin back together again, don't I? Put a couple drops of lube in there. Yeah, I don't care if there's too much lube. I'll wipe it out later on. I know micarta doesn't like it, but I can wash the outside of the micarta later on. And since it's a dark green color, it's just going to show dark green anyways, although it should be visible, but we'll see. So put that pin in there. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is take the tape off of this, if I can. And then I'm going to close it so that the cutting edge is safe while I put the rest back together again. There's the tip of the blade. Maintaining tension at the back so those pins don't come out. All the rest of that I can take off later. So now let's close this. Ooh, come on, stop pin, get back where you belong. Oh, and I won't be able to get that on with that close. See that? Fart. Now I gotta do that all over again. Yeah, and this generally happens several times. And that's why I don't like taking slip joint knives apart. And when they're small like this, you just don't have an awful lot of space to move your fingers. I'm trying to lift that spring up with this, but I haven't got anything to push against. And now I took the tape off that blade. Yeah, it's a lot of fun putting slip joints back together again. Get in there. Get in there, you beast. Well, I'm going to turn the camera off, put more tape back on. I'll come back when it's all together. Well, I fought with it for a long time. And, with arthritis in my hands, I know it doesn't look bad, but with arthritis in my hands, I'm done, at least for today. And I want to post this video. What do I think of this knife? I like it. I like it quite a lot. Just don't take it apart, especially if you're not familiar with putting together slip joint knives. There's some that have a stronger back spring than others. That's this black part. And if this had a slightly weaker back spring, I could probably get it together. I could weaken this back spring, but not sure. Excuse me. But I'm not sure I want to weaken the back spring. It's not like it was too weak before. It was dialed in just the way I like it, how much tension you need to put on to close it and stuff. I'm just not in a place to put it together, at least not today. I've got to give it some more time. If this was bigger, I could probably do it without issues. But, you know, small detail-y stuff, and when your hands start going on you. Yeah, I got arthritis in most of my body, so that's just par for my course. I'm not complaining about it, just it is what it is. And I still like it. I still like it quite a lot. Thank you to my viewers who support the channel. I appreciate you guys an awful lot. If you want to support the channel, patreon.com/CCE, or click the join button down below for as little as $2 US per month, $3 Canadian per month. I know, Canadians, it's costing you a little bit more with the exchange rate the way it is right now anyways. That's just the way it is. But it helps me out a little bit more. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb. And hey, I'm totally uncut on this episode. Woohoo! Bye for now.